Hello, my friend, and Happy New Year. I'm really glad you are here and doing this Evolve program. I hope you did the yoga class for today. It's very beginner friendly, very accessible. I just wanted you to feel victorious on day one. And we're going to go deeper into the chakras and exploring the subtle body starting tomorrow. And the goal with today's class was really just to get embodied, to just get in touch with your body. And what I have for you now is a workshop, a member-only workshop that I did inside my Uplifted membership that I'm giving access to you now for free as part of our New Year's kickoff. And the reason I'm so excited to share this workshop with you is because I talk a lot about goals. Because this time in the new year might be a time when you're setting big goals, setting intentions. And in this presentation that is about to play next, I kind of break down some of the assumptions we make about like, oh, well, goals are good. And I kind of invite in, using some yogic philosophy, ideas for you on how to get more embodied. Because even though this challenge is about the subtle body, we cannot go subtle unless we are grounded and secure and safe and present in our physical system. Our body is the house, right? From which all the magic and alchemy inside occurs. So if our house is not stable, that's going to cause problems. We don't have a secure launch pad from which to shoot up or launch off of or circulate energy from. So getting just stable in your physical body is extremely important. And in this presentation that's about to play, I talk about how you can actually embody your intentions and tap into the feelings that you want to have to manifest your desires rather than thinking in sort of this goal achievement type of mindset, which I know for me just led to stress and burnout. So up now, I'm going to play for you about playing shortly here, this beautiful, beautiful member-only workshop that I'm so excited to share with you. Again, I did this with the Uplifted members as part of New Year's. And if you want to connect live, there's live calls that are running as part of this challenge. So make sure to sign up for those below this video. There will be the details. So without further ado, let's jump into this presentation that I'm so excited to share with you, where I kick it off right away by talking about the Yoga Sutras. And a lot of this was because of my work with the Yoga Sutras, especially in getting ready for teacher training, that kind of revisiting and relearning that so much of the sutras and so much of Buddhism is rooted in this idea that problems arise and suffering comes from the fact that we are so attached to external things. We all already have so many attachments to external things, which is normal, right? Like we're attached to our identities, to our clothes, to our jobs, to our houses, our cars, all these things. And that's totally normal. And I think in the email I gave the example of this brand new beautiful jacket I have that I really don't want to get dirty. And of course it's going to get dirty, right? The dog's going to jump on it. And, you know, in owning that jacket and then watching it get dirty, like I'm going to suffer, right? So anyway, the big concept here that I wanted to share was, and that I thought about going into the new year, was just, does the addition of goals make us even more attached to external outcomes, maybe more than we already are? So that's just a question, right? And you could think about it in your own life, right? Do goals make you more or less attached to outcomes? Over and over again, in my experience, it's been that goals bring me temporary satisfaction and help me meet external demands, but not necessarily the things that I really care about. And the example I gave about this in the email was this idea of trying to reach 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is a great goal. And it is kind of a goal I have because that would be amazing. But what happens is, like, when that becomes your goal, it means that days when the subscriber count is kind of low are kind of like bad days, or maybe not so great, and days when the subscriber count is high become like good days. And now all of a sudden my peace, my tranquility, my bliss state is now dependent, or has the potential to be dependent, on whether things are going well or going badly in terms of this like external goal, these external metrics. And I want to share the story with you that I was at this big YouTube conference a couple years ago, and I met some fitness people there. There, of course, like every YouTube conference, it was like 50% beauty people and 40% gamer people, and then there was like the 10% fitness people. And there were a couple fitness guys that I met, and they all had like 60 or 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, and at the time I had like 10 or 15 or something. And I remember thinking like, oh, I would be so happy, and I'd feel so legitimate and better about myself at this conference, and I just feel like I made it if I were like these guys. Like if I had like 60,000 subscribers, that would be amazing. And of course, I've reached that metric and now have surpassed that metric. And, you know, hitting it meant nothing to me. Like it didn't make me happy if I were at the conference, that same conference. Now I'd feel the same way, but just about the people who had like 150 or 200 subscribers, right? So what can happen with goals is that they just kind of encourage us to delay gratification and to project our happiness on something that's not ourself. And remember, the Yoga Sutras are teaching us that everything is already perfect. Like you are already perfect the way you are. There's this bliss state, this tranquil state beneath the surface of happiness. And what's messing it up is like all your thoughts, all your attachment, all your vritti, all your mind chatter, all the noise. If you could just quiet all the noise, like everything's perfect, you're already satisfied, you have enough, like everything's good. So if you can just remove the noise, remove your thought patterns, remove the constant, thoughts in your head, it's bliss that is underneath. And that's what the Yoga Sutras teach us, that everything is already perfect. The problem is we just keep forgetting, right? We keep forgetting that our true state is a state of bliss. So goals, I think, can be really helpful as a tool, just like yoga and meditation is a tool, right? So if having the goal of losing weight gets you to the gym and it gets you working out, great. If a goal gets you performing a certain action, I think that's awesome. As long as you're not beating yourself up, right? Like, I didn't go to the gym today, so I need to punish myself, or, it didn't go exactly the way I wanted, so I'm in trouble, or whatever. As long as you're not using it, or, today was a low subscriber count day, I suck, my content sucks, I should be doing something differently, right? That's where it becomes unproductive. But as long as the goal is a tool that gets you into action, I think that's fine. But the issue I have with it, and what I really thought about going into the new year, is that goals have a lot to do with striving, right? Like you have to strive and work to get to some external outcome. And someone in the Yoga Hackers group asked about vision boards and like creating a vision board. And again, I think all of that's great, but to me, even the act of creating a vision board, it's kind of like putting stuff on paper that's outside myself, right? It's like all these things that I need to get to or achieve or do. So the paradigm shift I wanted to invite you guys into was not that so much we need to create these goals that are outside of ourselves, and not so much that we need to think about where we're going and all the things we need to do and achieve, but that what we really need, and this is a big skepticism I have about the whole achievement goal thing and setting goals and setting resolutions and figuring all that out, is because what I think, especially if you're an Uplifted member, what I think is that you actually already deeply know what you want and what your big dreams are and what the direction you want to move forward is. You know that. You're just afraid. We're just afraid to admit it to ourselves. We're afraid to admit it to one another. We're afraid to do it, right? And the picture of an onion is here because it's like it's like peeling back the layers of an onion, right? This practice where so instead of looking outward to the goal, it's like, how can we unearth who we truly are underneath? If you listen to the Member Only Uplifted podcast, I think it's called like Change, Fear, Business Goals or something. It's one of the more personal podcasts that I've recorded that's about a very difficult conversation I had with my husband, but it was about how I wanted to really transition back before I was doing yoga fully 100% online all the time. And before I was doing everything the way I wanted to, basically like I do now, I had so much fear and so much resistance around like letting my other jobs go, letting other business go, jumping into this full time. And now that I'm doing it, it's like so not a big deal. It's so easy. And this, what I'm doing now, is what I had wanted to be doing for so long. I always knew it. It was always the truth. I knew it 100%. It was just covered up in so much fear. So again, the picture of the onion here is just a reminder that, like, again, maybe you don't, but I think probably, like, what it is you really want, who you really want to show up as, what you really want to be doing. It's like, we don't need to like brainstorm resolutions or like make all these extra external goals. Like, inside of you is this thumping desire, perhaps, or just this feeling that you're here to contribute, or here to share, or here to do things in a different way. And what we need to do is unearth that, not like create more external, just random goals. And that's, something I really wanted to share, because unearthing that truth, that deepest you, that the yoga practice is a journey towards moving into, right? Like, yoga is the journey home, right? There's no goal in yoga except to get closer and closer to your real self. That's why it's like peeling back the layers of the onion. When we create goals in the traditional sense, it's kind of like we have blinders on a little bit. Like, if we're like, I figured out that what I need to do is X, and so I'm going to do Y in order to achieve X. It sort of puts blinders on to other opportunities, to other things that might be coming our way. And I think in that email, I gave the example of like taking this random dance class that was not on my plan, that was not with my agenda of like doing yoga that day. I just kind of like was curious about it and did it. And it was like exactly what I needed. It was magic, right? So when we get really goal-oriented and kind of in the box of seeing things as good or bad, but also kind of in the box or in that groove of like, I need to do X to achieve Y, we shut ourselves down to other synchronicities that the universe might be offering us. We shut ourselves down to other opportunities that might be presenting themselves. And I think one of the biggest kind of practices you can have, you can call it a spiritual practice or just a yoga practice, is being curious, right? I don't know if anyone would say this but me, but I think curiosity is like one of the greatest spiritual lessons or things that you can really keep at the front of your mind. Curious about who you are, curious about what you really want, curious about continuing to learn and grow. Especially if you're an Uplifted member, like, you're probably a healer in many ways, and you're probably incredibly devoted to self-study, to self-improvement. That's probably why you're perhaps in this group. So goals are a good tool if they get you into action, but not if you beat yourself up, and not if they kind of make you have these like blinders on, so you're not open to the beauty of the present moment and all the synchronistic opportunities that might be in the present moment. And that brings us to the very, very first Yoga Sutra, Atha Yoga Anusasunam, which can be translated as now begins the transmission of the practice of yoga. It's a very bland translation. Some people also chant this as like, now we sing the song of yoga, because the Yoga Sutras were meant to be sung and as chants. Now begins the exposition of yoga. Now begins, my telling of the Yoga Sutras, and this is the first sutra. Now is the experience of yoga. And the coolest translation that I wanted to share with you guys today is that you could also translate this. This is like a fun double meaning here. It's like, now begins the Yoga Sutras, now begins the exposition of yoga. But another translation of this is like, yoga occurs in the now. We can only achieve a state of yoga, meaning like union, completeness, harmony, in the now. Yoga only exists in the now. Because, right, we do all this meditation, we do all these asana, we do everything to get present, to be in the moment of now. Yoga is in the moment of now, is another way that you could translate this sutra that I think is really powerful. And it ties into goals and, New Year's resolutions and intention settings, because it's like, are your goals taking you in or out of the moment of now? Is a question I would pose, and is a question I pose to myself this year, and why I'm sharing this with you. So are your goals taking you further towards or further away from the moment of now, from the moment of this moment, with an open mind, with curiosity, right? Because in the moment of now, everything's up for grabs. Like everything's a possible, right? Because we're not thinking about the past and we're not projecting into the future. It's just the curiosity about what is right now. And there's a lot of confusion about what mindfulness is, but to me, and the way I understand it, that's what mindfulness is. It's not being in the past, not being in the future, but being completely open to the now. Like eating the strawberries if you've never had a strawberry before in your life, right? Or having the conversation with your mother as if you haven't had it 800 times before and already know what she's going to say and how the outcome's going to be and how you're going to feel, right? But just being completely present and curious and questioning everything. So the paradigm shift that I'm inviting in for 2017 and that I wanted to share with you guys on this call was this idea of, instead of being in an achievement mindset, right? Like how we are with goals or things we want to obtain. My suspicion and what I believe is that like we're actually not craving achievement. We're actually not I actually am not craving. I could write the goal of wanting to have 100,000 YouTube subscribers. And again, think of the context of what that is for you in your life, right? I'm just giving practical examples. But it's not that achievement of that metric that is what I really want. What we're really craving, I think, is self-expression and connection. Self-expression being that peeling back the layers of the onion to really shine forth my true self, because it's like a journey in, your journey home. You may think you know who you are, but then it changes and you keep peeling back, layer after layer until you know yourself better, and you're showing the most authentic, pure version of you to the world. That self-expression. And then being acknowledged for that, being seen for that by someone else. The connection. That's what I think we're really craving. We're not craving achievement. We're craving self-expression and connection. And the example from my own life of this, if it's helpful for you guys, is that, just like when I passed that 60,000 subscriber mark and, 2 years before that, I'd been like, oh, if I had 60,000 like these other guys at the conference, I'd be so happy. I'd have everything. I'd never ask for anything again, right? And of course, I hit it and it meant nothing. I mean, it was like, great. When am I going to hit 1,000 or 100,000? And when I hit 100,000, it's going to be like, great. When am I going to hit 200,000? Right? Like it doesn't mean anything. But what really makes me happy, right? So there's no lasting happiness in hitting those metrics. But what really makes me happy is designing experiences for people, right? Like doing something like the Chakra challenge that I did on Uplifted and YouTube, or doing like the Yoga Sculpt challenge, which is happening right now. Like creating something totally unique and giving it to the world as something to experience. That, for me, makes me super happy, right? In the deepest sense. And it's because it's a unique self-expression of, me sharing what I love. And then the connection piece is that I get to connect with others around it and, put it out there and have it seen. So again, I'm sharing my examples to give it like practical weight for you, but think of what that is for you. Like, what is it that it makes you really happy? And for you, it might be like a salary thing too. I had that for years, right? It's like, oh, the bigger paycheck's gonna make me happy, kind of like the YouTube metric, right? But in the end, when you really look back, it's like, no, most likely the things that make you really happy are the moments and ways in which you are self-expressed, like you feel like your true self is really seen. That's what we're all craving. That's what we're all craving in our relationships. So we're all craving in our jobs. What we're all craving is to be truly, truly seen for who we are, that deepest, deepest layer of the onion, and to have other people experience that and hold that truth with us, see it back. So now we're going to begin our journaling. So pull out your paper and pen, which you hopefully have. And this is really nice to do because a lot of times you don't set aside time to do journaling unless you're sort of forced to. So hopefully this will kind of force you to in a good way. So journaling prompt number 1 is, how would I be acting if I were already expressed/connected in the way I deeply desire? How would I be acting if I were already expressed, if I were already like the deepest, deepest, deepest layer of my onion and showing that to the world and having it reciprocated or seen back to me, connected in the way I deeply desire? How would I be acting if that was already a reality for me? And if you're not sure how to answer here, Some examples are, you could write about what would your routine be like? How would you get up in the morning? What would the first thing you'd do be? What people would be in your life and which people would not be? What friends would still be around, or maybe you'd be closer to? What kind of friends would you have? And what people, maybe even specific people you want to write down, would not be part of your life anymore? Same with thought patterns. What thought patterns would be part of your life? Like, what would you be thinking to yourself daily? And what would you maybe not be thinking anymore? So I want you to focus on the positive for this journaling prompt. How would you be acting? What kind of things would you be doing? Who would you be hanging out with? And what would you be thinking if you were already this deepest layer of the onion, self-expressed you, happy, being seen and connected? And journal on that. And if you're stuck and if it's helpful, one of the thought patterns I wrote down as how I would be acting if I were already expressed, connected in the way I deeply desire in terms of my routine, who I hang out with, and what I think, is I wrote one of the things I would be thinking if I were this version, this deepest version of myself, most authentic version of myself, is I would be thinking, I'm at peace with what I've achieved. I already have more than I need. That's something I'd be thinking all the time. I'm at peace with what I've achieved. I already have more than I need. And that has become one of my affirmations that I use constantly in my affirmation tape. And we're going to talk about affirmation tapes in just a minute. So keep writing. You can always pause since this is the replay. So feel free to pause and take a little bit extra time. And then when you're ready, hit play. Okay, next journaling prompt is, how would I be if I were this person? So you are your most authentic self, deepest layer of the onion, completely connected to what it is you really want, because you already kind of know, right? You're just afraid to say it. It's buried under fear. You're now that person living it bold and beautiful. How are you? How would you walk? How would you dress? How would you behave? How would you feel? Journal and write some of those things down. Right? What are you wearing? How do you move through the world? What does it feel like to be in that skin? And if it's helpful to get a practical example, from me when I did this, how would I be if I were this person? One of the things that came to mind right away was like, oh, well, the most authentic version of me, that's like my light is purely shining and it's the deepest layer of the onion and I'm so connected to like source and my purpose and again, the deepest version of me. Well, that person would never be rushing, ever. Like they would never, ever be rushing. Right? So I wrote things like, I would be super calm. I would be relaxed. I would feel like I had so much time. I would never be rushing, right? So honing in on the rushing, this sparked one of my other big affirmations, which is, I am never rushing. I am always aligned and in total flow. I am never rushing. I am always aligned and in total flow. And that's an affirmation I also use constantly. And it was sparked from like this kind of thought process. So if you need more time, just pause. Totally fine to pause. Otherwise, moving on. Again, please pause because this is the replay, so you can. Next one is 3 things in your life that currently don't match with that. So here it's really asking about like, where is there dissonance, right, in your behavior and the thoughts you think compared to what you've written previously. So if you wrote that this deepest authentic version of you, you know, has this morning routine that involves waking up early and you get up at, 11 in the morning, right? That could be something for this list of 3 things. Or, for me, it was really obvious. The rushing example, this person, my most authentic self, would never rush ever. So currently I rush quite a bit. So, rushing would be one of my 3 things. And it could be like, that person would never wear pink or not have this type of job. And you can write those down as well. So just 3 things about your own current life that don't match with that. Cool. And then I'm going to skip ahead of this slide for just a second to come to this one, which is that the big hack that I want to share with you for have these things right now. You can become this person right now. And skipping ahead to this one, this is really the purpose of this call and what I wanted to share with you. So of course I lured you here with the idea that this would be an intention setting live call. But that was actually just a trick to get you on the call or to get you listening to the replay. What I wanted to share and what I think the shift here is that you can have the intention, right? Like, and sorry for the men listening, but I use this example of this purple dress with this photo. It's like you can set the intention to like save enough money to buy this dress. You're going to work really hard to like save all your money to buy this dress. And, a lot of coaches would be like, visualize walking into the store and buying the dress. And then like visualize walking, have the intention that, visualize and see it in your mind of you going up to accept the award for whatever it is you care about in the dress, right? Like all that kind of thing. You can do all of that. Or you can just think about what it feels like. What would it feel like if you were wearing the dress right now? Right now. You already got it. You already bought it. It's already on your body. What does that feel like? And you were just already there. From there, what kind of decisions would you be making about everything in your life if you just already were that person? You already were the woman in the purple dress or whatever it is for you, right? It's like the greatest hack. It's this incredibly powerful shortcut. And most of the most successful people I know, including, one of my big mentors, this is all she talks about. This is all she talks about. Intention and goal setting and striving, none of these things are bad, but what I'm just inviting for you, and again, this particular live call will either like resonate with you or it won't. But I hope you take something away from it that's positive. But there's the striving, there's the intention, there's the like gearing up, thinking about it, or you can literally just do the hack of like, if I already had this, if it were already on my body, if that were already reality, how would I be acting right now? And just like step into that suit. It's like literally like putting on a dress, which is why I use the example of a dress. How would I be acting right now? And that comes back to now, right? You can have all this stuff. You can make these changes now. Like my rushing example is so great, right? Like if I were this person, if I were my fully aligned, authentic self, shining my deepest layer of my onion, I would be someone who never rushed. So I could be like, okay, well, I have to get like everything done that I could have ever thought of so I can be that person, so I can stop rushing, which would sort of be like the goal achievement mindset, right? Or I could just stop rushing right now. I could just be that person now, like fake it till you make it, right? Like if I were that person right now, I would not rush and I no longer rush. And the reason this is hard for people, the reason this is hard to do, because it sounds so simple, right? Because it's like the greatest hack ever. The reason it's hard is because you have all your thoughts sabotaging you. You have your habitual way of thinking. And if you're doing yoga teacher training with me, which starts next week, so exciting, we're going to go a lot deeper into all of both neurologically why this happens and philosophically, according to the Yoga Sutras, why this happens. But we just have ingrained ways of thinking, ingrained thought patterns, ways that we constantly think. And it's like your brain is just always noisy, right? You probably experience this in Zen-Tember, experience this as you meditate. You're constantly thinking about stuff, and even just meaningless stuff like, what to have for dinner? Did I go to the grocery store? Did I turn off the oven? Like all this stuff is stemming from maybe some deeper underlining anxiety or fear that you're carrying around, that's very, very real. So what we really need to do is change those thought patterns. And meditation is a great way, but meditation is one tool, right, to do that. The other way that I'm going to offer you and what we can do in February is these, what I'm calling affirmation tapes. And I really don't love the word affirmation. It's not a word I'm a fan of. So maybe we could call it like uplifted tapes or something. But it's something that it's something I actually did years ago and then recently have sort of rediscovered and reincorporated as something that I wanted to explore to share with all of you guys in Uplifted. But what the uplifted/affirmation tapes are is you record yourself saying your new thought patterns, the things that you want to embody, right? Like, imagine you were already wearing the dress. What are you thinking? What are you saying? You record those as your affirmation. So remember, mine were like, I'm never rushing. I'm in alignment. I'm in total flow. I already have more than I need. I've already achieved everything I wanted to achieve. I have more than I need, right? Those types of things, whatever they are going to be for you, you record yourself saying it in your voice, and then you listen to it all the time. And it's funny because I'm a new dog owner, as many of you know, and we use like every opportunity we can to train the dog. You know, we never just like give it its food. We're like, sit, lie down, roll over, jump up, go out, come back in, and then we give it the food, right? It's like every opportunity is a moment to train. And it's the same with your brain, right? Like if you just, your brain is very much like a puppy. Like if you just let your brain loose, like it's going to think all sorts of crazy stuff all the time, 90% of which is probably not true. Most of which is like projecting into the past or projecting into the future or living in the past. It's just wild, right? And you've experienced this maybe in meditation when you can't quiet down your thoughts. So why not instead listen to the new thoughts that you want to be implanting, what I'm calling like the embodied thoughts, where you're already the person you want to be. And I don't say the person you want to be again, because that sounds like external, but you've already unearthed your true self and are letting that shine, self-expression/connection, right? You're already there. You're already that. What are you thinking? What are you saying? What are you believing? You record those in your own voice and then you play them and listen to them all the time. And I've been listening to my tape before bed, before I meditate, when I do the dishes, when I'm cleaning the house. I have it constantly playing. And you can easily record it as a voice note on your phone, but it's great if you can get it looping as a track. So it's like 20 or 30 minutes long, so you can really listen to it. In the car is a great place too. So in February, if you guys are into this idea, I'm going to be creating a special class for you where we sit and do some asana, do some meditation, and kind of get you in the zone, get you in the mindset to record this tape. And then I'm actually going to teach you how I actually do it technically as well. So you can have your own affirmation tape with these thoughts that are the ones you really want to be thinking, want to be having. Definitely feel free to watch this replay again and maybe do the journaling a little bit deeper, pause and take more time to write.
Thank you so much for being here and watching. I hope you had maybe a little bit of a paradigm shift or aha moment, and I want you to practice this idea of being embodied, just kind of acting like you already have what it is you want. So if there's something you want out of this new year, just acting like you already have it, that it's already on you, just like a dress or an outfit would be on you, to embody that. And I can't wait to see you tomorrow for the challenge. I'll be including a little video like this each day that's just me talking and going deeper either into the chakra system or the subtle body or Kundalini. Happy New Year!